Some music. There exists a place on Earth where the modern world ceases entirely. Not little by little, not the way your phone signal fades near a national park's edge or the paved road turns to gravel on a country lane. Entirely. Absolutely. As if a line was drawn in the ocean and someone declared, past this point, everything belongs to another age. The island is real. It's on every map. It has coordinates you can punch into Google Earth, a shape you can follow with your fingertip. It lies in the Bay of Bengal, part of the Andaman Archipelago, technically under the legal control of the Republic of India. It has a name, North Sentinel Island, and nobody has ever been there. Not in any real way, not the way humans have set foot everywhere else. Every peak, every deep-sea trench, every frozen pole, each square mile of desert, forest, and tundra has been charted, sampled, measured, inventoried, and taken. Except for this one. This one remains, in the most direct sense you can imagine, untouched. And the cause of that is not geography, weather, or landscape. It's the people living there. People who have made it deadly, unmistakably, and repeatedly clear, through every recorded effort at reaching them, that the modern world is not allowed. And they have been saying this, as best we can tell, for about 60,000 years. Let that number sink in. 60,000 years, not 600, not 6,000, 60,000. The Sentinelese, as outsiders call them, we don't know their own name for themselves, are thought to be one of the most isolated human groups on the planet. Genetic and anthropological evidence suggests they've lived on North Sentinel Island since the first migration out of Africa, since the earliest surges of human spread across the globe. They arrived there before farming, before writing, before pottery, before the wheel, before every civilization that has ever risen and fallen in the 60 millennia since. They were there before the last ice age. They were there when sea levels climbed and turned their peninsula into an island. They have remained continuously for longer than any known civilization, any known culture, any known human institution has existed, and they have no interest in us. This raises a simple but essential question, one that sounds easy but becomes stranger the more you think about it. Why? The official answer is isolation. The Sentinelese have been cut off from humanity so long that they have no way to understand the outside world. They meet contact attempts with violence because they see outsiders as dangers, which, given what contact has done to isolated peoples everywhere else, is not an unreasonable view. The explanation is neat. It's logical. It casts the Sentinelese as a leftover, a living fossil, a snapshot of prehistoric humanity preserved by geographic luck. But the deeper I looked, the more that answer felt lacking. Not exactly false, but incomplete, in a way that says more about us than about them. Start with what we actually know, because what we truly know about the Sentinelese is almost nothing, and that almost nothing is itself remarkable. Their population is guessed at between 50 and 300 people. We don't have a real number because no census has ever been done. The island is about 60 square kilometers, roughly the size of Manhattan. It's ringed by coral reefs that make boat approaches dangerous. The island is covered in dense tropical forest. From the air, structures have been seen lean, toes, small clearings, paths through the trees. Fires have been noticed. Canoes have been spotted on the shores. The Sentinelese are not cave dwellers or wandering foragers, as popular imagination sometimes pictures uncontacted peoples. They have tools, weapons, shelters, boats. By all signs, they have a functioning society. But we don't know their language. We don't know their stories. We don't know what they call themselves, their island, or the sea around them. We don't know their social order, their spiritual beliefs, their view of the stars, their bond with the animals and plants of their home, their songs, their past, their sorrows, their joys. We know nothing, and we know nothing, not because the information was lost, destroyed, or hidden, but because it was never gathered. The Sentinelese have, for all of recorded history, kept the outside world from obtaining a single meaningful piece of cultural knowledge about them. The silence was overwhelming. Not their silence, ours. Because here's what the history of contact attempts really shows. It's not a story of noble savages left alone by a respectful world. It's a story of repeated intrusion met by repeated refusal. And that refusal has been total. The British colonial administration, which ran the Andaman Islands from the mid-1800s, tried many times to make contact. The pattern was the same. Ships would come close. Landing parties would try to go ashore. The Sentinelese would answer with arrows. Not warning shots, not hesitant signs. Arrows meant to kill, shot from the tree line with a precision and steadiness that sent a message no interpreter was needed for. Go away. Do not come here. This is not yours. In 1880, a British naval officer named Maurice Vidal Portman landed on North Sentinel Island with a large armed group. At first, they met no resistance, because the Sentinelese had pulled back into the forest. Portman's group searched the island and eventually captured 6 Sentinelese, an elderly couple and 4 children. They were taken to Port Blair, the colonial capital. The elderly couple fell sick almost right away and died. The children were returned to the island with gifts. The colonial administration called this a scientific expedition. They didn't call it a kidnapping that led to 2 deaths, but that's exactly what it was. And if the Sentinelese keep any kind of oral history, any cultural memory passed down over generations, what do you imagine that event became in their stories? What would the abduction and death of elders at the hands of outsiders become in a society that had already been rejecting contact for thousands of years? The pattern repeats with uncanny accuracy over the next century. The Indian government, which took over the Andaman Islands after independence in 1947, kept up contact efforts through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. Anthropologists arranged gift-dropping trips, approaching by boat, leaving coconuts, metal tools, and plastic buckets on the beach, then backing away. Sometimes the Sentinelese took the gifts. Sometimes they shot arrows at the boats. Sometimes they made motions that the anthropologists read as threatening. Sometimes they made motions the anthropologists couldn't read at all. And here's the detail that struck me. On the rare occasions when the Sentinelese did accept gifts, they never gave anything back in a way that showed interest in ongoing exchange. They took what was useful and held their line. They didn't come near the boats. They didn't try to communicate. Over decades of contact attempts, they showed with remarkable steadiness that they understood what was being offered and weren't interested in the relationship it implied. They wanted the coconuts. They did not want us. The further I went, the more I saw that the Western reading of this rejection reveals our own assumptions more than their intentions. We call them uncontacted, as if contact is the normal state and its absence is the oddity. We call them isolated, as if isolation is something that happens to you rather than something you choose. We call them primitive, or, if we're being careful, pre-agricultural, or Stone Age, as if their tools define their humanity. We frame their existence as a lack, an underdevelopment, a failure to advance, as if 60,000 years of successful living on one island, 60,000 years of sustaining a population, a culture, a society, a continuous human presence longer than any civilization in history, counts as failure because it didn't produce a smartphone, as if they were the ones who got things wrong. In 2006, 2 fishermen whose boat drifted too close to North Sentinel Island were killed by the Sentinelese. In 2018, John Allen Chow, an American missionary, illegally traveled to North Sentinel Island, intending to convert the Sentinelese to Christianity. He was killed on the beach. His body was never retrieved. The Indian government didn't try to recover it. They couldn't, not without risking more contact and more violence. The island kept him. The response to Chow's death was telling. Much of the Western discussion focused on whether the Sentinelese had the right to kill him, whether their isolation justified lethal force, whether the Indian government should step in, punish, enforce its sovereignty over citizens within its territory who had committed what is, under Indian and international law, a homicide. The debate was cast as a legal and ethical matter about the limits of indigenous self-rule. But the deeper question, the one almost nobody asked, was different. Not whether the Sentinelese had the right to kill an intruder, but why we assume we have the right to intrude. Why? The default belief of modern civilization is that every place on Earth is reachable, that every people is available for contact, that every culture is subject to our curiosity, our study, our missions, our gifts, our diseases, our God. The Sentinelese have been saying no for 60,000 years. They've said it with arrows, spears, and fire. And yet, the absolute consistency of a people who have never once, in all recorded history of their interaction with outsiders, shown that they want what we're offering. And we keep coming back. We keep sending boats. We keep dropping coconuts. We keep studying them with binoculars from offshore. We keep writing about them, filming documentaries, guessing about their language, their customs, their genetic lineage. We keep circling their island like something unable to accept that a door is shut. The official explanation falls apart here, because the usual framework for understanding uncontacted peoples treats them as a conservation issue, a fragile population to be shielded from contamination, an endangered species of human, preserved not for their own sake, but for what they mean to us, a window into humanity's past, a living exhibit of premodern life, a specimen. The Indian government's policy of non-contact, adopted after years of failed attempts, is framed as protection. And it is protection, genuinely. Contact would almost certainly be disastrous for the Sentinelese. They have no immunity to common diseases. A single flu virus carried by one visitor could wipe out much of their population. But protection and respect are not the same thing. Protection is what you give to something you have power over. Respect is what you give to something you see as equal. And the global conversation about the Sentinelese is soaked in protection and almost empty of respect. We protect them like a nature preserve. We don't respect them like a nation that told us to stay out. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision across every meeting between the modern world and the peoples who live beyond it. Because the Sentinelese are not the only uncontacted people on Earth. There are estimated to be over 100 uncontacted groups worldwide, mostly in the Amazon and the forests of New Guinea. Each exists in a state of deliberate separation from the global civilization around them. Each has made choices across generations to maintain that separation, and each is discussed by the contacted world in the language of conservation, not sovereignty. I'm not saying we should reach out to the Sentinelese. I'm not saying we should leave them alone. I'm asking something more basic. I'm asking what it means that a people can say no for 60,000 years, and the world still treats that no as a problem to manage, rather than a decision to honor. I'm asking what the Sentinelese know that we don't. Not about technology, not about medicine, not about any of the measures we use to judge civilizational success. What do they know about the value of a boundary? About the price of contact? About what is lost when a society opens itself to a larger world that runs on deeply different ideas of what human life is for. I'm asking why 60,000 years of continuous, self-sustaining human civilization on a single island doesn't register in the modern mind as an achievement. Why it registers instead as a curiosity, a leftover, a thing to be studied rather than a thing to be learned from. I'm asking what it means that the most isolated people on Earth have outlasted every empire, every religion, every institution, every nation that has ever tried to reach them. That the society with the least technology has the longest record of success. That the people who want nothing from us have outlived everyone who wanted everything from everyone. Given a single definition of progress and told it was the only one, what else have we been handed and never thought to question? Made with by glass,